Welcome to Join the Conversation. I'm Dr. Matthews, and today we will be discussing how you, as a parent, caregiver, and/or SLP that's out in the field, can use everyday household items for effective at-home speech therapy. I'm often asked by my clients and their parents, what can I do at home? And so today we'll just discuss all the many opportunities that surround you when you are just going about your normal day to day life. The different areas that we will be touching on will touch on language and sequence, categorization and descriptive language, core vocabulary and AAC practice, sensory and sound practice, fine motor, and speech goals. So I will go more in depth about each one of these as we move forward. Again, thank you for joining the conversation, and I am looking forward to this episode. Okay, so first, let's address language and sequencing. Language is how we understand and use words to communicate. It includes things like vocabulary, meaning like knowing the names of different objects. That's your vocabulary. Putting words together in a sentence, understanding what others say, asking and answering questions, and telling stories or explaining things. In short, language is how we share our thoughts and how we understand each other. Sequencing means putting things in the right order. It's being able to understand and talk about what happens first, next, then, and last. For example, telling how to brush your teeth, or how to make a sandwich, or follow a recipe, retelling the story in correct order. Sequencing helps us to follow directions, tell stories, and explain how things happen in real life. So, one of the great things that we can do as caregivers or parents or even SLPs that doesn't require us to buy anything from the store new is to let the children or let someone who's learning language and or sequencing. We're always learning language, we're always building vocabulary, but someone who may have a sequencing deficit, we can have them follow a recipe. So we could say to our kid or to whomever, let's make a sandwich, and we can say, okay, what do we need to make the sandwich, and use that as an opportunity to build that child or that person's vocabulary, right? So this is bread. Feel the bread. Is it hard or is it soft? So those are opportunities that we can use to build vocabulary. And the sequencing part of it is, what do we do first? Do we put the meat down first, or do we put the bread down first? Do we put the mayonnaise on the bread first, or do we put the meat, lettuce, and cheese on the bread first? And following those type of steps, first, next, then, and last, will then help the person who has the deficit figure out what order things should go in. And again, you can use a simple morning routine when they wake up in the morning. First thing we do when we wake up is we make our bed. Next, we go and we brush our teeth and wash our face. Then we get dressed. And then last, we go downstairs. You can use those as opportunities to reinforce those skills that are being worked on at speech therapy, or in school, or at the private therapy you go to. It's important that when you're working with children, that we take the time to be patient and allow them to figure it out. So instead of doing it for them, ask the child. You can prompt them by saying, first we pour, then we stir. Now what comes next? You want to encourage the child to describe the actions and name the tools, or request the ingredients. Don't just, if they're making um, Kool-Aid or lemonade, don't just push the sugar over there and let them know that the sugar comes next. Hold the sugar in close proximity to you with the scoop, and have them request it. And if they point at it, you can say, do you need something? What would you like? If they don't know the name of it, you can say, describe it. If the scoop is red, you can say, would you like this thing in my hand? What color is it? And have them use every opportunity that you can to have them verbally say and or describe what it is that they want. That further builds the vocabulary and it gives them more opportunities to communicate and work on their language delay. So every day we eat, every day we wake up and get dressed, every day we do these things. So utilize those as opportunities for carryover at home or in the home. Another activity we can do as speech pathologists, or you can do as a caregiver, is to allow the client or child to partake in chores like folding laundry that will allow them to categorize and use descriptive language. So, descriptive language is how we add details to describe something. It helps us make our words more interesting and clear. For example, instead of saying ball, we can say big red ball, or instead of saying towel, we can say the large, fluffy, soft yellow towel. That's a way to communicate and describe our language and be more specific, which helps with clarity and understanding when a person is listening to you. Talking about the size, color, shape, texture, smell, sound, squeaky, give me the squeaky toy. Those are all ways to add descriptive language, which helps children and just people, period, express themselves better. And then we have categorization, right? Categorization means grouping things that are alike. It helps us to organize information and understand how things are related. For example, if you're cooking, you could tell the child, I want you to group all the fruit together here in this big red bowl. There you've used categorization and descriptive language together, right? Because you said in the big red bowl and you're having them group fruit, maybe separated from the grains and or the vegetables. When you're doing laundry, you can have a child sort the clothes. You can say, hey, can you put all the pants together? If you want to add some descriptive language, you could say, can you put all the dark colored pants together? Or all the white towels together here in a pile. You can have children group things by person in the household. Can you put all of the kids' clothes here because they're much smaller? Put all the small kids' clothes here and put all the adult shirts and clothing over here. And so those are all ways that you can create opportunities in doing something as simple as laundry to help the child see things that occur in categories like patterns, give them the ability to compare and contrast and organize their thoughts, which is important for problem solving and learning new words. So an activity like doing laundry gives a child an opportunity to follow directions, sequence. You can create a process to help them sequence and build their vocabulary, use descriptive language, and categorize items. So now I want to move to um, targeting and focusing on things like core vocabulary and AAC practice. So, core vocabulary is a small set of very powerful words that are used most often in daily communication. These words can be used in many different situations with different people. So, example of core words are things like stop, go, more, help, once, or all done, in, out, look. Those are all words that exist in our core vocabulary and can be used in a myriad of situations and with a variety of people and in different contexts. So, why is it important? Why is core vocabulary important? It's important because teaching core words helps people express many different ideas, even if they can't say a lot of words. With just a few core words, they can make requests, they can protest, they can comment and or ask for help. So if we're dealing with a child who maybe is nonverbal or minimally verbal, they have very few words. Teaching a child these words and giving them an opportunity to use them is essential because they can use it in other aspects of life, whether they're home with you or they're at school. So if they don't want something, they can say stop or no, yes, please, um, more if they're still hungry. These things are essential to a person being able to communicate. And often when we are teaching a child core words, because they have a delay or disorder to which an expressive language disorder, then when we're teaching them these words, we start with words like yes and no, and we teach them sign language as well so that they're able to communicate, even if it's before they can verbally or audibly express themselves. So AAC, it stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. This includes tools and strategies that help people communicate when they have trouble speaking, right? Because I said sometimes children can be nonverbal or minimally verbal. You also have some people who are verbal, they can talk, but it is not their preferred method of communication. So AAC, again, augmentative and alternative communication, and it can be a communication board with pictures. It can be an app on a tablet, a speech generating device, and providing opportunities to practice with those tools can look like giving a person the option to have conversations and make choices, express wants or needs. So maybe if you make a communication board and you include yes, no, more, stop, help, even just with those few words, that child or that person can point to those things on that board and tell you um, that they need help, tell you, yes, they want something, no, they don't, to stop doing something that maybe is unenjoyable for them. So the goal is to give people a way to communicate independently, even if they can't use spoken words. So AAC is definitely a great option for people who are nonverbal, minimally verbal, or just do not prefer to use spoken words to communicate. So a way to increase opportunities to have your child or loved one engage in communication and build their vocabulary is to add the different pictures of the toys that they like to play with on the communication board. That way they can make requests and you can add a picture of them and then want, which is like maybe hands out, and then the picture of the toy. And you can sequence that and then you can say, I want dinosaurs, right? And you can teach them to use that to make requests. I want dinosaurs. I want bubbles. All of those things are ways to communicate these to communicate and engage in conversation. So a lot of times I've had parents say, well, I can't afford a tablet. You can make this with construction paper and a printout. You can draw it if you need to, right? We can do these things, and it doesn't have to be um, technology. It doesn't have to be like advanced technology, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to create in just playing with your child for them to make requests. Take the toys, put them up higher to make them use their board to communicate and make that request. So that's what we have to be mindful of as SLPs, as well as parent and caregivers, to utilize what the child already has. You don't have to go buy new toys. You can use the toys they have. You can use the books that they have and teach them to say different words, but make sure that we target those core words. If you have a child that is minimally verbal or nonverbal, start with yes and no, and then stop or help and move up the hierarchy. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about utilizing opportunities like doing arts and crafts and how they target fine motor and speech goals and how all of this works together. So, fine motor activities like cutting or coloring or gluing helps to build the small muscle movements in the hand and the fingers. And while these are physical skills, they support speech goals by helping children point to pictures on AAC boards or devices, It helps support their writing skills, which help connect to language development. It helps to build coordination that's needed for sign language or gestures, right? Helps to build those muscles and those little fingers, because can you imagine learning to sign all day? Their hands could get tired. So the more that we give them opportunities to learn to cut and to learn to color and write, a child may choose to write out what they need as opposed to verbally speak it. So we're building the pathways and connections and the bridges for more language, for more communication. Um, so fine motor skills are extremely important to communication. And then when we employ the use of arts and crafts, which most kids like some form of arts and crafts, they get to not just be creative, but also build communication skills. They get to follow directions. Arts and crafts is a great opportunity to uh, have a child practice their listening skills and follow multi-step directions. So maybe you start off, depending on the child's level, with following directions. You could start off with them following one-step directions and then following two-step directions. So at first you could just say, cut the paper and stop after that. Then you can level it up to cut the paper, then glue it on the card. So those are ways that you can work on following directions, sequencing, telling what happened first, next, and then and last. You can do this while making a craft. You can practice talking about the orders of which the child should follow. First, you color it. Next, you'll cut it. Last, you'll glue it, right? And then, so not only are they following directions, but then they are sequencing, and then they can retell to you how they did it. So you ask them, how did you make this? What did you do first? And then what did you do after that? And after going through that with them a couple times and you do a craft, you could say, tell me how you made this, and see if they're able to retell the process of making that craft to you in order. That's a really quick and easy way to kind of test where they are. You can also use descriptive language like we talked about earlier. You give them a chance to describe the colors, the shapes, the textures. So you could say, oh, this paper is so soft, or wow, you made a big round yellow sun. That is very bright. And you can ask them to describe what they did and why they chose the colors or the textures they chose and how does it feel. Um, Also, as you do that, it's building vocabulary. So all of these things are interplaying together, and they're requesting, commenting. May I have the scissors? I would like the glue, please. I love the color red. These are all things that you can engage a child in while doing an arts and crafts activity. And that could be anything. It could be cutting zigzags in a paper. It could be painting. It could be coloring. It could be macaroni art. It does not have to be complicated. It can be very simple and target all of these goals. So, as a parent, when you're thinking to yourself, how can I carry over activities from speech therapy to home? I hope that some of this information helps. If you are a speech pathologist and you are visiting clients in their home, and you're not wanting to tote around a lot of items and put them in your car, and this kid loves dinosaurs and that kid loves Barbies, and you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna go into the house and do therapy. Use the things in the home. It's always better that way because they are there. And also, when we as SLPs use the things that are in the home, the parent can watch us, the parent can engage. So first they can observe and then they can engage. And so we know that that builds the relationship with the parent and the child to allow them to help facilitate and support their child's communication. They spend way more time with their kids than we do. And so they need to know these techniques as well. And really, it is that simple, but we don't know what we're missing an opportunity to do unless we talk about it. And that's why I'm so thankful that you have joined the conversation. Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you do with your little ones, with your speech kiddos, with your kids at home, with your family members who maybe you're trying to rebuild language and vocabulary with. I would love to know what you do to help facilitate this. And thank you for joining the conversation. You have a great day. This is Dr. Rose Matthews signing off. Bye-bye.